My sister falsely accused me of ruining her marriage and made our family abandon me on my wedding day. Years down the line, the truth came out and her lies crumbled. I'm 27 now, female, and I've been married for 3 years. My dynamic with my elder sister, we'll call her Lisa, 30, female, was never great, but it took a sharp turn into something far more toxic when she took it upon herself to wreck my wedding. For context, Lisa was in the middle of a divorce during that time. Her relationship was falling apart because her husband didn't want children, while Lisa had always envisioned herself as a mother. Now, I'm not here to discuss whether that's a valid deal breaker. It totally is. But Lisa had known about his stance well before tying the knot. He'd been upfront about not wanting kids, but she married him anyway, thinking she'd eventually change his perspective. Their relationship was barely hanging on around the time I was organizing my wedding. My fiancé, now husband, and I had been together for 4 years, and were excited to finally get married. We'd spent months budgeting, planning, and organizing every single detail. We were all set. But Lisa decided my wedding was some kind of attack on her. It started with small jabs, accusations that I was inconsiderate for planning a wedding while she was facing a divorce. I ignored the comments because, to be honest, Lisa has always had a flair for drama. Growing up, she was the golden child in our parents' eyes. She could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was usually blamed for everything not going her way. If Lisa was upset, everything stopped until she was okay again. So her being upset about my wedding didn't surprise me. I thought she'd get over it. Then my parents stepped in. They called and asked me to postpone the wedding. Yes, you read that right. They wanted me to delay my wedding because Lisa was going through a divorce. I thought it was some kind of joke. When I realized they were serious, I told them flat out that wasn't going to happen. My fiancé and I had already paid deposits and mailed out invites. Besides, why should my big day be put on hold because of Lisa's personal problems? Her failed marriage wasn't my doing, and I wasn't going to put my life on pause for her. My parents weren't happy about it. They called me selfish and insisted that family comes first. I told them Lisa's divorce had nothing to do with my wedding, and she could either be supportive or just stay away. That's when they dropped the ultimatum. If I didn't reschedule, they wouldn't come to the wedding. They were actually willing to miss their own daughter's wedding just to protect Lisa's emotions. I was heartbroken. I'd always known they gave Lisa special treatment. But this was betrayal on a whole new level. I told them they were free to make that choice, but I wasn't changing my plans. I figured that would be the end of it. If they didn't want to show up, so be it. At least I'd have my fiancé, my friends, and his family to support me. But Lisa wasn't done causing trouble. She began spreading lies to the rest of the family. It began subtly. Lisa told people I was being heartless for having a wedding while she was going through such a painful time. A few relatives sympathized with her, but most didn't think it justified skipping my big day. So Lisa took things further. She began telling everyone that I had actually played a part in breaking up her marriage. She claimed I had influenced her husband to leave her out of jealousy, saying I couldn't handle the thought of her becoming a mother before I did. Let me make this very clear. I barely even knew her husband. We'd spoken maybe a handful of times over the years, and none of those conversations were deep or significant. The idea that I meddled in their relationship was absolutely absurd. But Lisa was so convincing, so confident in her lies, that people actually started to buy into them. Some family members even blocked me out of nowhere. I later found out through a cousin that Lisa had told everyone I was flaunting my engagement and gloating about convincing her husband to leave her. None of it was true, but by the time I learned what was being said, the damage was already done. When the wedding day finally came, hardly anyone from my family showed up. It was soul-crushing. My parents, my aunts and uncles, and even some cousins, all of them were absent. Only a few cousins, the ones who didn't believe Lisa's story, came to support me. Everyone else at the wedding was either a friend of mine, a friend of my husband, or from his side of the family. I won't lie. The weeks leading up to the ceremony were some of the most emotionally draining days I've ever experienced. I thought about trying to defend myself, to set the record straight, but it all seemed pointless. Lisa had already poisoned their views of me, and it would be her word against mine. The ones who chose to believe her had clearly made up their minds. I wasn't going to waste energy trying to convince people who weren't interested in hearing the truth. Despite all of that, the wedding itself turned out beautiful. My husband and his family were incredibly supportive and went above and beyond to make me feel loved. My friends didn't let me sit in sadness. They kept me smiling, dancing, and celebrating the whole night. For a few wonderful hours, I almost forgot about the empty chairs and the relatives who had taken Lisa's side. But even with all the joy, the hurt didn't just disappear. After the wedding, I completely cut off Lisa and my parents. I just couldn't bring myself to forgive them. Lisa didn't simply miss my wedding. She actively tried to sabotage it. And my parents, instead of protecting and backing me up, stood by her and enabled her behavior. It's been 3 years since then, and I haven't spoken to any of them. There are moments when I wonder if going completely no contact was too extreme, but then I remember the heartbreak they caused during what should have been the happiest period of my life. Lisa's envy and my parents' constant favoritism turned my wedding into something I had to emotionally survive. Even though I've managed to move forward in many ways, the bitterness hasn't completely gone away. Fast forward to now, and I've built a life I'm genuinely proud of. My husband and I are in a really good place, and recently we shared some wonderful news. We're expecting our first baby. It should have been a time filled with nothing but joy, but of course, Lisa and my parents found a way to worm themselves back into our lives. Here's how it all unfolded. A few weeks back, my husband and I decided to share our pregnancy news online. We kept it simple, just a sweet photo of us holding a sonogram with a caption about how thrilled we were. We hadn't had any contact with Lisa or our parents in years, so I didn't think they'd even notice. But apparently, they'd still been keeping tabs on my social media, because just hours later, I got a call from my mother out of nowhere. Seeing her name pop up made me freeze. She hadn't reached out in over 3 years, not for birthdays, not for holidays, nothing. And now, out of the blue, she wanted to talk. I hesitated, but eventually I picked up. At first, she laid on the niceties. She congratulated me on the pregnancy and said how thrilled she was. But it didn't take long for her to get to her real reason for calling, Lisa. Apparently, ever since the divorce, Lisa had been trying to have a baby but hadn't been successful. According to my mom, she went through multiple IVF treatments that all failed, and she was recently diagnosed with infertility. I won't lie, I did feel a pang of sympathy for her. Infertility is a painful thing, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But then my mom hit me with something I wasn't prepared for. She and my dad believed that this pregnancy of mine could be the perfect way to make amends with Lisa. I was completely confused. What on earth did my pregnancy have to do with Lisa? My mom explained that since Lisa couldn't have children, it would be therapeutic for her to bond with my baby. She even suggested I allow Lisa to have an active role in my child's life, as if that could somehow ease Lisa's grief. Then came the part that truly made my skin crawl. She said it would be good for my baby to have 2 mothers. I was stunned. This woman who hadn't spoken to me in years was now asking me to share my unborn child with the sister who had tried to ruin my wedding. I said no immediately. I told her I wasn't in contact with Lisa and had no plans to involve her in my child's life. My mom tried to emotionally manipulate me, saying Lisa was devastated and needed family more than ever. She accused me of being heartless and said I was depriving Lisa of a healing experience. I shut her down right away. I told her that I wasn't responsible for Lisa's feelings or life, and that if she and my dad had really cared about me, they wouldn't have waited until I was pregnant to finally call. She didn't take it well. She accused me of being cold and said I was letting old wounds keep the family apart. I ended the call before I said something I'd regret. In the following days, both my dad and Lisa tried to contact me as well. My dad's message was more or less the same as my mom's. He presented it as a chance to heal the family and said Lisa's intentions were good. He claimed she didn't want to replace me as a mother. She just wanted to be a part of the baby's life because of their biological connection. He even said I'd benefit from Lisa's help once the baby arrived. I gave him the same response I gave my mom. No, I told him I didn't need or want Lisa's help, and I certainly didn't want her anywhere near my child. My husband and I already had a strong support system with his side of the family and our friends. If Lisa and my parents had been fine ignoring me for 3 years, they could keep doing it now. Lisa's messages, though, were a whole different beast. She didn't bother pretending to be kind. She accused me of being selfish and claimed I owed her the opportunity to be part of my child's life. She even went as far as calling me heartless for denying her access. I ignored her messages at first, but once they turned into non-stop spam, I blocked her completely. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it. My parents weren't ready to back off. A few days later, they called me again, this time together, and gave it one last shot. My mom actually said the words, "Lisa suffered so much. This baby could be our family's way to heal." I was stunned. My baby hadn't even been born yet, and they were already trying to turn them into some kind of emotional bandage for Lisa. That was the final straw for me. I snapped. I told them I saw through the false concern and made it clear that if they pushed me one more time, I'd block them for good, just like I did with Lisa. They tried to argue, but I hung up on them before they could say anything else. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotion. On one hand, I felt strong for setting boundaries. My parents and Lisa had shown where they stood the day they abandoned me on my wedding, and they hadn't changed. They didn't deserve a place in my future child's life, but at the same time, I was furious and heartbroken that they would try to manipulate me yet again. They clearly hadn't learned anything. For now, I'm focusing on my pregnancy and keeping a positive mindset. My husband has been a rock through all of this. and his family has surrounded me with nothing but love and encouragement. They've reminded me that I owe nothing to Lisa or my parents. This child is the beginning of a new chapter for me and my husband, and I won't allow toxic people to be a part of it. For years, I tried to move forward, but there was always an uneasy feeling left over from what happened. I never truly knew the full picture behind Lisa's lies, until about a year after the wedding when my husband and I randomly bumped into Lisa's ex-husband. Let's call him Mark. What he shared blew my mind and helped me understand so much about why Lisa acted the way she did. Story ends here for this segment, and the next paragraph leads into the earlier sections you already have. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.